guys, it's me. I am going to be starting my series today on the creation of a LARP character from the ground up. Today we are working on character cards, and I'm going to show you from the point of view of my LARP, but I'll also go over some of the other options the LARPs offer, as well as kind of my process behind getting a character started. So let's go! So the first thing I do when I'm creating a character is pull up the rulebook and go through what I'm going to need to do. So what type of character I'm going to be playing, what kind of race, get an idea for the basic premise of the character I'm going to play. Something that's really nice about Legacies in particular is that they have like this kind of tutorial on building your character. So step 1, create your character concept. So in this case, I decided I wanted to play a Felinae, which is technically step 2, but also included in step 1. So I wanted to play a Felinae who had some backstory with a friend of mine who plays in-game. So that, and she is magically inclined and also has martial arts abilities. So then I went through, so that was step 1 and step 2 was kind of creating a concept, picking your race. So then you're going to go into your character creation spreadsheet. Some LARPs do this as a spreadsheet, others do it just as a fill in the blanks online. So we know that I'm creating a Felinae, so you're just going to go over into your race, pick your race. In the case of Legacies, each race has a primary and 2 secondary racial abilities, and you have 15 racial points to spend. So you would divvy them up, just depending. Each one, I believe the primaries cost 3 points each, and the secondaries cost 2 points each, for a total of 15 points that you can spend. Once you've decided on your racial, you're going to insert your skill points. In the case of Legacies, you start with 100 if it's your first character, and 50 if it's a second or third or fourth character. However, in the case of this character, I actually went through and spent favor to get her up to 100 skill points. So I bought her an extra 50 skill points. So I'll just pull up her character sheet. Something I do kind of in line with creating my characters, I do tend to do the history and the character sheet at the same time. So because I knew I wanted her to have martial arts abilities, I also wanted her to be magically inclined. I went through, and this is mostly kind of physical abilities, and then this is mostly magical abilities, and this is what I would call other. Well, actually, they're listed even. Martial skills, mystic skills, and professional skills. So I went through her martial skills. I gave her Unarmed and Martial Artist, which gives her a little bit of extra ability to fight if she is unarmed. I also gave her Weapon Master, which means she can pick up literally any weapon in the game as long as it's not soulbound, and she can fight with it. And those were the only martial skills I gave her, just because I did want her to be more magically inclined than fighter type inclined. So then I went into the mystic skills. I'm going to pick out... one of the big things you want to do is make sure that you are purchasing the minimums before you go down to the next ability. In the case of, say, Martial Artist, you have to have Unarmed before you can get Martial Artist. In the case of something like Savant, you have to have 20 purchases in Reserve, and you have to have innate talent before you can get Reserve, and then you have to have 20 purchases of Reserve and a few other things before you can get Savant. So, that being said, I went through, I got her innate talent. Reserve increases her Vala pool, and then I just went through and picked skills that I wanted her to have. Something that I was really interested in getting for her was spell blocking, because it means that she can smack a packet away from her and block magic. It's super handy. So I did give her Tempest and Vitality because I wanted her to be an elemental and healing caster. First Aid and Medium are more practical skills. Being able to see spirits is helpful when people start dying, and First Aid means that you can tell how hurt somebody is. I also purchased her 2 lores, which made sense based again on her history, which I will go into in a sec. So she has elemental magic and undead as her lores. I always, like I said, kind of go back and forth with my backstory. So I start with my concept, and I get started on my character sheet in there, and then I go through and I do a point form, history, bullet point. This is like, you know, how old she was, where she was raised, early life into teen years, and then into more current timelines, before I write a full set of paragraphs that are going to be about her history, including all the way up to what brings her into the game. That is something that is Legacies likes us to do, and I'm sure other games like to know how you got to the game as well. So she has history taking her all the way through from birth all the way up to when she arrived in the town that she's going to be starting in, which is not in June of 2017, but will actually be July, because my fiance's birthday is LARP weekend in June, so we're going to have to stay home. So yeah, so that's her history, and a big thing that I like to do is have this point form section. I find that just makes it a lot easier, and that way if it gives your plot team something to start with. So if they see any errors here, they don't even go down into your paragraphs at first. They send you back and they say, hey, you need to fix this. And then once they've kind of confirmed that this is all okay, then they can go down and read all the details. But if they need to do a quick response, they don't need to read the entire thing. And it also makes it easier when plot teams and character teams switch over between, we have 6 to 9 month plot reigns. So yeah, so that's kind of how I go through it. I try to, Delilah is the name of my character, my Felinae, and I had got some inspiration from The Walking Dead, actually. I can't remember his name now. The gentleman who uses the bow staff in The Walking Dead. I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyways, I was inspired by kind of his journey into controlling his anger, and wanted her to have a similar journey when it came to controlling her magic. She has explosive magical outbursts, which is why she learned martial arts and Aikido, and she will be using a staff similar to a bow staff in her fighting style. I always recommend referring constantly back to your rulebook, and if you have a world book that explains like the plot and the world, that's good too. Ours is currently in progress, I believe. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at for how I create my characters. I hope this was not too short and sweet and not too all over the place. Like I said, the best thing you can do is just go section by section, purchase your skills, keep an eye on your skill points, and yeah, have fun. I mean, this is a character that you want to potentially play for many games, so you don't want to create something you're not going to enjoy. Don't create a character that's going to be too hard for you to play, to get into. A big one that actually Momo O'Brien mentions is don't create a character who has skills that you don't. So if you can't climb trees, was the example she gave, don't create a character who's good at climbing trees. So yeah, and then after you, in the case of Legacies, after you get your character sheet created and your character history, you go through and you purchase all your starting equipment, which I believe is pretty similar in most games. And then there's also production, if you've got production abilities, so if you can make anything, you go through and you do your first month's production as well. And then each month you would update your production, what you were making per month. So anyways, that's kind of how I go through and create a character. And I will see you in the outro and next week. So that's how I work on my character history and sheet. I hope it was informative, and I will see you guys next week when I talk about designing the look of a character. Bye!